I'll call the meeting to order. Can you call the roll call again, please, Madam Clerk?
President Weatherspoon.
Still here.
Trustee McManus. Here. Trustee Wishaw.
Here.
Trustee Stillman.
Here.
Trustee Martin.
Here.
Trustee Lambert.
Here.
And Trustee Pierce. Here.
And I have a motion to approve the minutes from Committee of the Whole, April 8th.
Make a motion to approve the minutes from April 8th.
Second.
Mike and Fran, thank you. Any discussion on the minutes? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes are approved. Public comment, 2-minute opportunity for citizens to voice their opinions to the Committee of the Whole. Committee of the Whole cannot respond as it may conflict with open meeting requirements. Anybody? Moving on. Committee updates. Ms. Pierce, do you have a Plan Commission update?
Yeah, if I'll quit clicking along here. Yes, for the next meeting, we will be looking at 3 things, all related to the area around the Mosquito Inn. There will be a land use amendment, some rezoning, and a CSM question coming before Planning Commission next week about 2 properties in that area.
Thank you. Nancy?
And
Pete? Pete wants to
Yeah,
weigh, let Pete weigh in.
There was one thing on, I want to add, there's going to be a condominium subdivision plat for the Storage USA or Storage Shop USA on Hagman Road. It's it's a condominium plat, so they can sell those individual buildings for each of the storage units that they have. And so that'll be coming also for review. Sorry
Yeah,
about that.
I
Nancy.
saw that come out on Zoning Hub. Those are really those garage aminiums, I think we nicknamed them.
Garage
Yep,
aminiums,
yeah,
yeah.
the garage aminiums.
They
That'll
look
be up
nice,
for
too.
review too.
I got a
Um,
question on that, because I got an email on that.
Okay, we're not,
Oh,
this is
sorry.
not discussion, this is committee reports.
Okay, I'll have to
Sorry.
ask that.
Hold,
Sorry.
hold it for later.
Okay.
Holly, you got a Parks and Rec Committee?
We have not had another meeting, so nothing new.
So nothing new, thank you, Holly. Mr. Wishaw, do you have anything from the utility district?
Sure, 3 quick updates. The central lift station attenuation basin, we are expecting the final design roughly June, July sometime. And we still intend to break ground late this year if all goes well. The TID4 elevated storage water tank, water storage tank, excuse me. We are waiting on the design. No, we do have the final received, or the foundation plans for that, and we expect to pull permits in the next couple of weeks to get that going. Is that correct, Tony? Okay. And last but not least, we got our annual love letter from the Racine Water and Sewage Utility back in March, stating how we did relative to our 2002 agreement with them. No major issues noted. We are not under moratorium. And we reviewed it at the meeting, the last utility meeting, and Tony has responded to their letter because we're required to do that, but no major issues.
Thank you,
Anything
Mr.
to add,
Wishaw.
Tony? Thank you.
Visit Racine County, Fran Martin, even though I missed you the first time?
Yeah. Well, Todd and Carrie Grieving, who is the head of Visit Racine County, are working on an updated contract. And also, I just wanted you to know, some of us were at the bi-county meeting on last Saturday, but for those of you who weren't, Carrie Grieving gave a very enthusiastic and entertaining update on what's going on in the whole county. So it was all very positive.
Does it have anything to do with visiting Racine?
Huh?
Does your last comment have anything to do with visiting Racine County?
Yeah.
That was Visit Racine County. That's Carrie Grieving. Yeah.
All right, thank you. So I was gonna talk about the bipartisan,
Go ahead.
bi-county, talk about, well, I don't need to anymore. Fran did that, but it was very well attended, I thought, and very interesting, because I'm not sure what really went on there besides a lot of speech making.
Well, President Weatherson, I did hand a copy of, at that meeting, we were given the map for construction for Racine County 2025.
Yep.
And
Okay.
also, there was the thing on,
Excuse me, we're not open for discussion. These are committee reports. Thank you. New business, Title II, Chapter
Oh my
9,
gosh.
legislative referrals, requests for services, and requests for information policy. I think
Well,
Todd was going to
we'll
lead
do
off
this.
on this.
Use the microphone, please.
updating a policy or an ordinance that relates to legislative referrals, requests for services, and requests for information. I guess I think it kind of speaks for itself, but really it is just a formal process to get things to be placed on an agenda or information requests that an elected official, staff, or some outside agency may have from the village. And that way, it just is a little bit more formalized and can be associated with a specific amount of time. And then it's also held within the clerk's office where we can kind of track and make sure that those things are done in a timely fashion. But like I said, I think it kind of speaks for itself, but I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Was Elaine going to make comment also?
If you want.
Just that I reviewed it and gave Todd some suggestions to incorporate, especially if you look to have this be an ordinance versus a policy. So I gave him some feedback on it and knew it was coming here to this committee.
So may I ask you, Todd, have you seen other communities doing this procedure?
Yes, this is one that we primarily, or was primarily used in the city of Brookfield when I was there. Basically, staff could provide something that they wanted to review if it was outside of the scope of normal business to the mayor. That would be reviewed by the mayor and the director of administration, and similarly, any of their council members. And then on each agenda, at the end of it would be legislative referrals. So then the mayor would assign it to a committee or to a department to bring back. Typically, it had to be back and reviewed by the council within 60 days is typically how they did it. I think we used 45 or something along those 45 days for it to be brought back.
Okay, so,
Well, I
Fran,
know-
do you have something to say?
I do.
Okay, go ahead.
I do. And one is that this is not a city, this is a village, and it has a different structure. For example, the village president, unlike a mayor, is not designated. I pulled this out of the League of Municipalities handbook because I was struck by this. And it seemed to me that what this does is to treat our village president as though he were a mayor or the chief executive, because it gives him veto power in effect, or the ability to slow it down. So hang on, let me finish. So what this says is, village president, unlike a mayor, is not designated as the chief executive officer by state law. Instead, a village president is declared a trustee with certain administrative responsibilities, including presiding at all board meetings, signing ordinances, rules, bylaws, regulations, et cetera, et cetera. It does not make him the chief executive officer. And it says, in all other respects, the executive authority of a village president is a shared authority with all other members of the village board. And I don't think that this, as it's structured, does that.
I don't think it makes him a chief executive officer
Well, sure
either.
it does, because everything has to go through him.
But there's a way to cure
And he
that
has to
if
wait, yes, but with
you-
a 105-day wait. You know, to me, this seemed like, honestly, seemed like a solution in search of a problem, because we have, what we've done before in the committee of the whole is, if somebody wants to discuss something, we've had an item that says items to discuss, and then we've done it. And it seems to me we haven't had issues really. I think there are a few.
I would
structures in here.
I would
on.
relate back to the
Wait.
fireworks ordinance, because I wasn't given very clear direction on whether anybody really wanted us to investigate that. So this is more of a formal process that allows, whether it's staff or even the clerk and the village president to look at requests that are being made instead of having them made on the open record. And then we can start reviewing and looking at them and placing a timeline that we can get them back, as opposed to being directed to look at a policy, look at an ordinance, rewrite an ordinance, and have it back within 2 weeks or 4 weeks. It kind of puts a deadline on some of those things and creates a formal process.
Yes, but it doesn't fit with the way that a village is structured, I think. I agree that there are some portions of it. For example, when staff wants to suggest that there be changes, That makes sense to me, and I don't have any problem with that. But I really do have a problem with requiring that trustees have to submit something in writing, and then they submit it to the clerk and to Tom, and then Tom decides if it's good, and if he doesn't like it, then it goes somewhere else, and maybe it takes 105 days to get it back on. It just seems to me we're functioning fine. I don't know why we're adding all of these strictures. It's overregulation, and making it an ordinance instead of a policy is that same thing, because what we're doing is we're saying to any future village board, now you have to jump through all of these hoops instead of sitting here as a collegial body and discussing things, which is what we do now. So that's my view.
Anybody else?
Oh, yeah.
Nancy?
Oh, yeah, of course.
Of course.
Don't let us know.
Huh?
Don't let us know.
I won't. I did have some earlier discussion with Todd about this, and again, I made that same comment to him. This is a solution in search of a problem. This board, nobody, and I did ask, has anybody on this board abused asking for information, putting stuff on? I agree, it disenfranchises 6 trustees and the people we represent. I don't know how Mr. Weatherston feels about illuminative, and I'm not sure I know what illuminative means in a legal description. Also, if something like this is going to come forward that is a good policy or anything, I think it should have come through the committee as a whole first. If it's a suggestion that this is something that would make this village more efficient, I think that's wonderful. But bring it to the committee as a whole, get our feel on it, because now we've incurred Elaine's expense when we didn't even know what was going on, honestly. It's a policy can make sense, but I agree, we have right now 2 trustees can ask for something to be put on the board. If we start, also, we have an understanding that if we want to ask for anything substantive in research from any staff member, we cannot go directly to that staff head. We have to come through the village administrator, which only makes sense because he has to manage this entire village. So that's not a problem. If we misstep, any one of us, then I think we should have that conversation with the village administrator, just explaining to us what you asked for is actually going to take whatever amount of time, and could we base it off? I hear what you say about like the fireworks situation. I don't think anybody really here, now I was only listening to that one, expected it to go into quite the conversation it went into. And I think that's okay. We couldn't have researched that ahead of time. If you felt like we didn't give enough direction, okay, help us out a little bit or come back to us. But I am totally against this because there are 7 members of this board, and we are not out of step or out of line.
Mike, did you have a comment?
Well, for me, I kind of see that there should be a flow to things, and I don't know, I come from the private sector. We always have like a methodology of how we do things. So for me, it's a little different. I'm used to a hierarchy and a methodology of doing things. Like, through the committee of the whole, I do see where we can vet out things. But I think as well, I think there has to be, I could see at one point where we could have a flood of things at once. And we have to figure out how to manage something like that. Let's say we have 15 things at once.
Then we work that out with the village administrator. I
Right.
don't have an issue with having a good policy based on.
Nancy, you don't have the floor. Thank you. I'm sorry. Mr. Wishaw, do you have a comment?
Well, yeah, I agree with Fran and Nancy. I don't see that we've got a problem now, and exactly right, we're coming up with a solution for a problem that doesn't exist. I thought that one of the reasons we had the committee of the whole was to deal with issues. Why don't we bring it to the committee of the whole and discuss these and decide what to do with it, rather than assign it to 1 or 2 people? And I found some of the timeframes here far too long. This really discourages open conversation, and I don't care for it at all. And again, who decides what's illuminative or not? I couldn't even pronounce it, let alone describe what it means. That's very subjective. If we're going to do that, it needs to go through the entire board, not just 1 or 2 people, in my opinion. I'm okay with making the process a little bit more formal than what we have. But this is, to me, is not acceptable for the reasons that Fran, and you stole my thunder, both of you, Fran and Nancy, so.
Thank you, Lee. Holly, do you have a comment?
I agree with Lee. I think the days are, I think that's too long. I don't see an issue with the way it's being done now. I think personally, I respect the order of things, and if I need something on the agenda, I mention it through the clerk who pushes it to you. I think we live in a time of instant gratification when it comes to us getting complaints from our community. And so when people bring stuff up through email quite frequently to me, if I don't give them some sort of answer, I'm now on social media being blasted because I ignored or didn't respond to their situation. And I think that this hinders our ability to kind of be free about a little bit more free about our agenda. I don't think something structured is bad, but I think this is a little too restrictive, and I think the time frame is way too high.
Thank you, Holly. Dale, did you have a comment?
I think the process that we currently are working with, it seems to be working quite well. I mean, in the past, I can remember having some issues with some of the things we did, but since we started this process, I think it's working better. And it is on the committee of the whole, and that's what we're talking about. So it is new business, but, and there was a lot of information about it, but I don't think we really have to jump into changing anything right now.
Mr. Witherspoon?
I have one more comment because it just
Wait a
puzzles
minute.
me.
Oh, hold on,
Wait a minute.
hold on, hold on.
Nancy?
Nancy,
Oh,
you
I
have the
have
floor?
So my only additional comment would be, if we wrote a policy based on our current process, just so if something is written down in a page and that's following like what you're saying, you have a procedure, you can call it a procedure or policy, this is how we handle things. It just connotates and catches what we're currently doing. I think that's a positive step. I don't have an issue with that because I don't think, even though all of us know it, I'm not sure it's written down anywhere.
Good point. Fran?
I just have a question because under A3, it says request for information, a request for existing records that relate to the scope of responsibilities or authority of an elected or appointed member of a body of the village. And I frankly don't understand what that means or who would ask, what kind of what's an example of that?
I mean, it could be a member of the public. It could, I mean, just what the scope of and responsibilities are, or an understanding of what those are from an elected or an appointed member, which would be somebody appointed to a committee, a commission. What is their role? What is the,
But this says an elected or appointed official making a request for information should provide the request in writing, and I really couldn't understand what one of us, why would one of us be asking the rest of us
I mean,
about the
there-
scope of responsibilities
I mean, there's
of all
more-
of us? It doesn't make
there's,
sense
there's,
to me.
there's more elected officials beyond just the scope of the village board. I mean, there's county officials, there's school board, you know, there are other elected officials outside of the scope of just the village, but I understand your point.
Oh.
I guess what I would say in response is, you know, part of the problem that we're going to run into, like the last meeting where 4 or 5 things were thrown at me with an expectation that they come back within a month. You know, not all of the ideas and issues and things that you want to come back, you're going to have to give me adequate time to be able to get those back, whether that's 30 days or 60 days. Things can't just be requested at the end of committee of whole and say, we want those to be placed onto an agenda and expect that in 2 weeks I can get you 4 or 5 things back. So if we're not going to go down this route, I would just prefer a little bit of leeway or courtesy when it comes to items being stockpiled onto the agenda.
That's an absolutely fair comment.
It is.
An absolutely fair comment. And the thing on the fireworks, I agree. When I tried to get a reading of the tea leaves, so I get that one in particular must have been frustrating. I thought what would happen is that you would just pirate it from some other community and, which is frequently done. So I was surprised but I think that's a fair comment that if we have a lot of things and we're saying to Todd, here, we're directing staff to do this and this and this and this, then fair for you to respond and say, well, wait a minute, give me priorities or something.
Absolutely.
Agreed.
Okay, Holly,
Wait.
did you have another comment?
Well, on that same note, I think it's just a matter of acknowledging what we're asking for, because I understand where you're coming from completely. So, and I think it's fair, 100% fair what you're asking for. Is there a way to, like, when we bring it up for the next meeting, let's say, to put it under the continuing business, and then you just come back to us and just say, we see it, we hear it, so that our community knows that we're addressing it, but that you just didn't get to it. Does that
Well, I
make
mean,
sense?
we can always put it under continuing business and do an update or kind of lay out what the process is to get that completed, or, any number of elements to give information related to those. But, similar to what we're going to talk about with the fireworks, I mean, just the assessment of everybody that was in that meeting will create that ordinance. We're looking at 12 months. That just to think through and make sure that what we are crafting is in the best interest and, is to the letter of the law, following what we can and can't do and making sure we're thinking about every avenue to try to, ensure that what is being brought to you is the best ordinance that we can come up with.
Mr. Weatherston? So my comment there would be, if we're asking for something of the staff and going through the village administrator, and they need to come back to us at the next meeting and say, with careful thought and consideration, this is going to take X length of time, I don't think there's a board member sitting here who wouldn't absolutely agree with that. At any point in time that the staff says this is going to take longer than, because we sit here and we say, well, can you get back to us in 2 weeks? Can you get back to us in a month? That might not be valid when they start to look into it. So I think we do work with our village administrator to manage the overall village.
Anybody else? I think it's pretty clear that the board's not in favor of this, Todd, and
That's fine.
and we do need to be more respectful for your time, and dumping stuff on staff should be more regulated. I think staff should have more input on that. And I will make one other general comment. I think sometimes on committee of the whole, and not pointing fingers at anybody, but I think sometimes we put things on that committee of the whole, so we have a placeholder 2 weeks from now to bring something else up. So I think as a board, we need to, if we put something on that committee of the whole, we should stick to what that subject is. Not change the subject halfway through the discussion. So I think it's pretty clear that the board is not in favor of this change at this time, and
Correct.
would you all agree?
Yes.
Well, everybody's nodding yes.
Right.
Can you do a motion to receive and file and then
It's,
let it go?
Make a motion to receive.
I'll make a motion to receive and file.
Second?
Give it to.
Holly
give
made-
it- No, give it to Nancy.
Oh, I don't care.
And-
I don't care.
Sorry, and who made the second?
Fran.
Fran did? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Don't get-
Thank you, Todd. B, 2025 budget modification, swinger couple in Skid Steer. I'm not sure that's
It
not.
looks a little risque. doesn't
Yeah,
it?
no.
Coupler.
Like
Oh, there's an end, an R on the end of it,
a
okay.
grapple bucker. A
coupler and a
grapple
grapple.
bucker.
I
attached the
Who would
entire
like to
thing to it.
tackle the swinger couple?
Wait, and a
Or-
grapple
Or
basket.
a coupler.
And a grapple basket.
One letter separates that from being
Yes.
awkward.
Yes.
All right,
We had
You
to
need
lighten
some
the mood.
social life.
All right, so to give you guys a hard turn in discussion, what's in front of you is a budget modification, because when we purchased the tractor and put it on the budget last year, the estimated budget ended up coming in lower. That total difference was the $34,000 number that's listed there. So after finding out we had that savings, I talked to the DPW crews to see what we would benefit from maybe utilizing this fund towards existing equipment or something in that same realm. And the two things you have before you are the swinger coupler, or the Wayne Roy swinger with hydraulic pin grabber, which took a little bit more to say. But that and a grading bucket would go on our rubber tired excavator, which we use all the time, all summer, all construction season, for grading, ditching, and all those activities. That needs to be replaced. And then the additional item you have on there is a grapple bucket for our skid steer that would help with a variety of features that I have listed, but mainly tree and landscape work that we do with our crews.
And this is all within the funds you have?
Yeah, if I look at the number, the total funds that I'm requesting are $28,000 out of the savings of $34,429.68. So there's still a little fluff in there.
Thank you, Mr. Schmidt. Any comments, motions?
I'll make a motion to approve the 2025 budget modification for the swinger coupler and the skid steer grapple basket.
I'll second.
Bucket. Second.
Yeah, bucket.
Oh, I said basket, sorry.
Second.
You only get a
The
basket,
bucket.
not a
All in
bucket.
favor quickly?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Request to apply for COPS hiring grant for a school resource officer, SRO position and employee. Explore additional funding options. Chief?
Thank you. So the document speaks for itself, but in summary, this has been on our radar for a while, but up until this point, we've only had one middle school within Caledonia. And as Olympia Brown moves forward with its completion, it'll move to a K through 8 school. And so we believe that it was worthwhile to at least have a discussion as to whether or not the district was interested in having a school resource officer, a single one assigned to both schools. A few weeks ago, we had an opportunity to speak with the school district officials on some issues that were occurring within the schools, and as a part of that conversation, we had mentioned that there was grant funding potentially available, and floated the idea past the school district to see if they would be interested, and so they are absolutely interested. They would like to pursue that, and they would like to see an officer assigned to the schools, and that could help them with a number of programs that they have, and some educational components, and a variety of things. And so they are interested in furthering the discussion. And so the first part of that discussion would be, is the board interested in allowing us to proceed with those conversations? If the answer is yes, then we would likely apply to the COPS hiring grant, which is not yet open, but typically would open towards the end of this month or early next month, and then have a conversation with the school district as to what cost sharing would look like. So we'd have to talk about cost sharing within the grant itself, because there's a local match, and then what post-grant funding would look like. And so the purpose of this communication is just to see if the board is interested in us pursuing those conversations, pursuing the funding, and if we can come to, I guess, agreement and resolution on the numbers, then we move forward. If not, then at some point we would abandon the idea.
Thank you, Chief.
I'll make a motion
Oh, go ahead.
to allow the chief, the police department, to apply for the COPS hiring grant.
We need to recommend it to the board.
Yeah, and then move it to the board.
Move it to the board.
I'll second it.
Any discussion on that?
I guess if there's going to be discussion, we can just wait till the board level.
Okay,
Um,
all right.
I'm willing to, I just have a fiscal issue with it, I think, possibly,
All right, we can do
not the
that.
concept.
We can do it at board level too. Thank you, Fran.
Wait,
Hold on. Can you ask the fiscal question so that maybe we can be able to answer the question today
Preemptive.
or at the village board level when you guys are taking up the issue as far as the grant?
Well, I mean, yeah, my concern is that, I know it happens with, it would be wonderful to have all of the requests from the fire department and all the requests from the police department granted, but we have to think about the budget and taxes. And so my concern is that in the past, any of these grants end up with the village paying it. So you might get a grant for the first year, or they pay X percent for year one, and then less and less. And then ultimately, it's one more officer on our budget. And that is my concern, because maybe we would want those same funds perhaps to finance an additional fire department person or something. I mean, it seems to me we have to look at it as a whole, not just in isolation. That's my concern.
So, oh, go ahead.
Chief, did you want to respond to that, or did you want to wait till we bring it to the board?
I think I can respond to that, and so I'm in agreement with you as well. I don't think that the village is in a position to fund it in its entirety going forward. And so that's why I think there needs to be ongoing discussion with the school district to see what the cost sharing looks like. And so I don't think that the village should bear the full burden of that. And so that therein lies the conversation as to who pays what and what that looks like. And if we don't think that it's to our benefit, then we don't move forward with it. If we think it ultimately is to our benefit, then we do move forward. So I have the same concerns as well because I'm not interested in absorbing the entire cost of an SRO. I think there should in fact be cost sharing, which is how I began the conversation.
Mr. Wishaw, did,
Yeah, I'd go a step further, and I agree with you, Fran. The long-term commitment here, we have to push the unified school district into picking up the long-term commitment. If they so choose to hold on to this officer, I don't think that should be our responsibility. So whatever discussions you have with them, I think in my opinion, they need to understand that long-term, this is on them, not us.
thank you, Mr. Wishaw. All right, so we're gonna,
I agree with him.
we have a motion to move this to the village board. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It is moved on. Suggested items to be placed on the next agenda. Nancy?
Maybe one. I'm not really sure, and I'm going to catch the chief a little unawares. Over in the Caledonia Business Association, there were discussions about things that could help, and there's been discussion about forming a Caledonia Police Foundation. If we want to have the chief maybe next time talk about how that could work, what it would work, it would be totally separate from this board. It would have nothing to do, it'd be like any nonprofit. But if the community and citizens, and there's been some pretty strong interest, indicated that people would like to have that capability or that capacity, it'd be a separate board that would make and work directly with the chief. Would you like that presented at the board or not? Or even, is it even appropriate?
I'm not sure how that fits in the committee of the whole.
Just as information is all
Can you
I'm thinking
please
of.
summarize that in like one sentence for the agenda topic title that I can actually
I
put
don't
in
see
the
how it
minutes?
fits, though.
He doesn't see how it fits, so if it
How
doesn't
do you
fit,
see, you think that's a valid thing to bring to the committee of the whole?
I just was, as a discussion only.
Sorry, I was making a note on the last one to
Right.
take care of that.
Yeah, I think that that's an offline conversation
Okay,
with your police chief. And then if there is a role for the village to take with respect to that type of organization, then that might be something that could be placed on a future committee agenda.
Which is fine, because it would not have, the village would not have a direct role.
All right. Anybody else? Okay. Moving on then to continuing business. Fireworks ordinance review. We've had this round a couple times.
Should we do the
Todd,
tea leaves
were you gonna
again?
take this, Todd?
I agree that we left Todd in a state of mystery. I had no idea what the
Well, we
our
are mysterious.
collective conclusion was, honestly, if we wanted it or didn't want it.
Right.
So at
So-
least I'd like to suggest that we do that one more time and say, can we get a consensus on whether we want to move forward with looking at a fireworks ordinance or not? I think in fairness to Todd, otherwise,
Well, and so, I mean, we did look at this, like as a staff, just try to, and, you know, this is what we came up as kind of the framework of review if we're gonna look at non-novelty fireworks, within the village, and that includes sale and then also use, as, explained at the last, meeting, where if we did allow the sale of the non-novelty, as kind of in 16710 of the state statutes, you know, we do have to allow, you know, technically the use within the village. And so I guess that's really the first question is the village board interested in that? You know, it kind of goes over everything that we came up with as a group, to the best of my ability to come up with notes as we were kind of going through each one of these items. Some of the elements that we'll have to review and come up with a detailed form or process on how that's going to work. And that goes with, you know, the sale of the permit, the use and possession. What does that look like? You know, from a police and fire standpoint, but those were relatively answered from the police and fire department. You know, the view is not much would necessarily changes when it comes to policing. It could, having a very strict policy on the use and if you have a permit and how that works, is creating negative contact, creating a negative, contact version. So it would have to come with probably a little bit more enforcement than is necessarily being, wanted to establish when it comes to that. But then you also have, large display non-novelty fireworks. What does that permit fee look like? How are we recouping costs? What do we require for insurance? A whole number of items. I think there was a lot of detail within the memo that was given to you guys related to that. And so then it comes down to what is it you would like staff to do with the next steps? And the recommendation has kind of those steps for you as the committee of the whole to review and decide how you want us to move forward.
Tom?
Yeah, Fran?
Since I was the one that sort of brought this up in the first place, I guess here's kind of where I am. My thought initially was, because I talked to people at the Village of Raymond and also in Muskego where they have one, and so my thought was we just pirate their ordinance, talk to their administrator and see how it works. But if that's not feasible and not doable, if the fireworks ordinance is really like an elephant swallowed by a python, I mean, if it's occupying just way more space than it should, then maybe we just say, forget it.
That's the conclusion I
That's
came
kind
to.
of my thought.
Holly?
I was all for helping these smaller businesses that
Yeah.
popped up with their tents, but in learning that in order to sell them, we have to allow the use in the village. I personally don't like fireworks. I don't like the dangers. I don't like the risks associated with them. I am for putting this receive and file list and be done with it. That's how I am.
What, you're in favor of what?
Not
No,
going,
just
not
a
following
don't
through with
file.
amending our ordinance.
Did you have another comment?
I've come to the same conclusion. And especially considering what our police, not the chief, assistant chief, whatever, said last month, the burden on them, I think, to enforce this would be just kind of ridiculous. I'm not in favor of moving forward with it.
Mike, did you have a comment?
Yeah, I think leave as is. I think leave as is. I think, the same as everybody is saying here, I think it's unwieldy. I think for our community, it's not a good fit.
Thank you, Mike. Nancy?
I would agree with receive and file.
All right. Dale, do you have a comment?
Same thing.
I love
Fine.
fireworks,
Same thing,
but
receiving no fireworks.
Todd, I guess it sounds like thanks for all your hard work, but put it in the round file.
but at least
okay?
you've got the tea leaves this time,
Thank you.
which we didn't give you
Well, that's
last.
what we needed, though.
So,
We needed this.
so we can, somebody make a motion, Fran, to make a note and file?
I will make a motion to, what do
Receive
we
and
call
file.
it? Note-
Receive and
Receive
file.
and file the fireworks ordinance review.
I'll second.
I'll second it.
Oh, no, let-
All in favor?
Give it to
Aye.
Dale.
Unanimous
Dale.
second.
Opposed? Thank you for all your hard work, Todd. Okay,
I see part of it was the, not having assistant.
yeah, thank you, staff, all the staff members for all your hard work, yeah.
Just the-
I think it just kind of
So we
blew up
stand
and
adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah.